Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Facebook Live. My name's Craig. I'm from mansioningles.com and also the podcast inglespodcast.com. And with me this week is Lynne.
Hi,
from
Craig.
Putitlikethis. Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Lynne has a wonderful site, Putitlikethis, which has tailor-made courses of private teaching where you can get exam preparation, job interview practice, work presentations, business English, meetings online, anything you'd like to do with your English. Lynne is the person to see about that, and we'll speak about that a little more later. But Lynne, what are we doing this week? What are we speaking about?
This week we're talking about homes, about our homes, a place called home, which I suppose probably lots of our students have got the vocabulary already for home, because it's quite a common topic, isn't it, to talk about your home? But it's something that we always talk about. So if you meet new people, you know, usually they always say, oh, where are you from? And where do you live? And what's it like? And so it's kind of like it's a general topic that often crops up in small talk, doesn't it?
That's right. And because it's a general topic, the idea this week is we're going to look at some vocabulary, some useful vocabulary that you could use to speak about where you live in your home. And then hopefully, after we've spoken a little about where we live, you would come on and join us and speak a little about your home, where you live, and maybe things you'd like to change, the good things and the bad things about where you live. So that's the idea for today.
And I do hope, can I say, I do hope that you get some confidence and you come and tell us about your homes. Because this is really, for me, it's really, really interesting. I mean, first of all, in this class, we're here in Valencia, and many of you are from all over in the world. And I think it's fascinating to think that we're all actually listening to each other from different homes. And I'm interested to know where you live and what the places are like where you live. That's really exciting.
Yes, we are generally very, very interested in where you live, and if you live in a house, if you live in a flat or an apartment. And let's say hello to people who are joining us from all over the world. There's Yaber. Hello. Greetings from Mexico, says Yaber. So there we go, Mexico, the other side of the world already. Gemma's here. Thank you, Gemma, for joining again.
I think Norma. Yaber's been here too before, I remember.
Yeah, Yaber's here most weeks.
And Norma too. Yeah, hi, Norma, from Mexico.
Hi, Norma.
Too.
And Catty, hello.
Great, hi. I don't know where Catty's from. Catty Martinez, she hasn't
Catty,
said.
where are you from? Where do you live? And Tony's here. Hello, Tony. Welcome. And if you're watching the replay on Facebook Live, thank you for spending time with us and watching the replay. So let's begin with some vocabulary, Lynne. What do you think?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. So maybe we should start. Should we start with the places that we live in? Where do we actually live?
Something basic, perhaps.
Yeah. A flat and an apartment. So what is there to say about a flat and an apartment? Well,
one. Oh, sorry.
Go on. No, go ahead. Go on. You tell me. What is there to say about a flat and an apartment?
I was going to say something fairly obvious, that one word is used more in British English and one word is used more in American English. And do you know which is which? Flat is used more in British English, and apartment is more common in American English. And of course, flats are together in one building. And if you live in a flat, you probably live in a block of flats. But apartments are together in an apartment building. So try and remember that distinction. Block of flats, apartment building. And I live in a flat in a block of flats. But you don't, do you, Lynne?
I'm not sure, really. I think I do.
You live in a flat?
I live in a flat. Yes, I do. But I live in a ground floor flat, and I have my own door. So it's a bit weird. But I actually do belong in a block of flats. But I don't have, my entrance isn't quite in the same in the central entrance of normal blocks of flats. Yeah,
that shows how bad my memory is, because I have been to your house or your,
and you thought it was a house
once,
did you think?
And I remember it being like standing alone by itself. I don't remember it being in a block.
No,
Okay.
it's in a block of flats. We have 6 floors in my building.
There you go.
But I think it's deceiving because you actually come in an outside door, which is unusual for a block of flats, and it's not a shared door. So that gives. And
is it in a because on the ground floor there's the ground floor, which is usually the bottom where the lift or the elevator stops.
Yes.
In America, is that the first floor? Do they call it the first floor in America? I think they
don't know.
do. I remember that they don't have like a ground floor. I think that's more British English.
They say basement and then first floor.
And first floor.
You're right. So basement is actually below the first floor. So you're kind of underground level if you have a basement flat. Okay. So yeah, that's flat and apartment. And there is actually another word which I didn't actually prepare with you, Craig, but maybe we can do it spontaneously. I think in America they talk about blocks of flats being, or blocks of apartment buildings. Sometimes I've heard the word condominium. Have you heard that in America?
I have, but I'm not sure exactly what a condominium is.
I think it's like a group of apartment buildings.
Let's Google it.
Yeah, will you Google that? Okay. Right. Gemma says she also lives in a flat. That's great. Alejandro's joined us from El Salvador, Fabiana from Argentina, and Hernando from Colombia, and Dalia from Peru. Okay, so we've got lots of different places. So do you guys all live in flats in these countries? Or is it typical to live in houses? Oh, you found condominium, Craig?
Yeah. According to Mr. Google, a condominium is a large property complex divided into individual units and sold. Ownership usually includes non-exclusive interest in certain community property. So it's individual units in a property complex, not necessarily a block of flats.
So it's maybe like we have in Spain. There's it's kind of like a newer concept now, that when they actually build new blocks of flats, they maybe build 6 or 7 buildings together, and then those buildings, they share some common facilities like a pool or a gymnasium or some green area where they can sit, but it's actually closed off from the street. So the group of buildings is not accessible by strangers, only by people who live in that group of buildings.
It's more like a closed. Yeah, I agree. It's more like a closed community with usually a caretaker or a doorman in charge of the whole complex. Yes.
So that would maybe be the condominium, but we don't use that word in British English, do we? But I have heard it in American English. Yeah.
And sometimes they just say condo, a condo.
Yeah.
So
and I think, yes. Sorry, but I think the reason we don't have it in British English is because I can see lots of people here are saying they live in houses. And of course, in Britain, it's very common to live actually in houses. Only in the very, very big cities are people now beginning to live in blocks of flats. But the tradition in Britain is actually to live in houses.
Yeah.
So sorry, Craig.
No, it's fine. So 6th floor, we said before on the ground floor. Notice the preposition on, because you're using your ordinal numbers to count the floors. So 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, and the preposition is on. So I live on the 3rd floor, on the 5th floor. 6th floor is really difficult to say because you have to change your mouth position. 6, and then the tongue comes out to make the TH sound th. So 6th floor. Practice that. It's quite difficult. 6th floor. And we spoke about basement flat. Now, attic and penthouse, what's the difference? Because attic is not attico, really, is it? It's not a direct translation into Spanish.
No, it isn't. Attic really is the space underneath the roof, But in British English, I think we often use the space under the roof, not to live, but to store things that we don't want in our houses anymore. It's kind of like a garage, you know, where you put you dump all your old books and your old furniture and the things you don't want in your house anymore. It's that space underneath the roof, and the roof is often pointy, and there's kind of like storage space. We in Britain, when I lived in Britain, we used to always keep the Christmas tree in the attic.
Yes, and all the lights and the decorations.
Yeah, and the camping equipment, because you only used it once a year. Camping equipment in the summer and the Christmas tree at Christmas. So the attic was really a storage space.
Yeah.
And a penthouse really is a place to live, isn't it? Which is underneath the roof. Would you say that?
Yeah, and they're usually quite luxurious. A penthouse has the implication of something with maybe a balcony, beautiful view, the more expensive floor of the apartment building. So penthouse, I think, is a pretty good translation to what you would say ático in Spanish. Un ático usually is a little bit more expensive. It has maybe a skylight where the light and the sun can come through, and it's quite luxurious. And that in English would be a penthouse apartment or a penthouse flat. Yeah,
so if you want to show off to people, you don't say I live in an attic, because that makes you sound like you can't afford to live in a house. So somebody's given you a space in a dusty storeroom. So you don't say I live in the attic. But if you say I live in the penthouse, that's very impressive. No?
quite a few people watching living houses, which surprises me, because in Spain it's more normal to live in a flat. Norma lives in a house.
Yeah.
And Tony lives in a house, not an apartment or a flat.
Yeah. And there was quite a few people before, but the chat's gone up. Norma, Sylvia, they all live in houses. Dahlia too.
Yeah.
So it depends on the country, what the housing is like. And I saw that there was somebody from New Zealand who's actually now living in Spain.
Mauro, yeah, kia ora.
And I know New Zealand because my family live in New Zealand now, and I know that in New Zealand, blocks of flats and apartment buildings are very rare, because they're only really in the big cities, and nearly everybody in New Zealand lives in a house.
Yeah. That's my favorite. One of my favorite countries, New Zealand. I love New Zealand. Okay, so where are we with our... Oh, yeah, we were speaking about lifts and elevator. Again, American English, British English. Lift is more British English, and elevator used more in American English. Although it's quite interchangeable. If you say elevator, then a British person will know what you mean, and vice versa. So you could describe where you live as with or without a lift. For example, I live on the 4th floor in a flat, and the block of flats has a lift. We have a lift.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask a reply to Eva, because Eva says, I live in the last floor. Is it a penthouse? And no, possibly not. First of all, Eva, if the floors are very regular, remember that Craig said when we talk about floors, we say we live on the floor, because you think of that preposition. On means on top of. In is you are inside something. So you live in the building or in the flat, but you live on the floor, because there are different levels of the building. And if the top, I mean, you might live in a penthouse, I don't know, but a penthouse is usually more luxurious than the other floors. But if the floors are very regular and you live on the last one, then what you do is you say, I live on the top floor. Right. But the penthouse is a very special floor, because it implies that you maybe have more space, or maybe you have big terraces that nobody else in the building has. Is that right? Would you agree, Craig?
Absolutely. Yeah,
There's a difference between the top floor and the penthouse.
Yeah. So if it's not a particularly luxurious flat, if it's pretty much the same as the other flats in the building, then you'd say, I live on the top floor. I live on the top floor. Yabar says that in Mexico, it's not common to have an attic. We use a small room to store things. Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty much what an attic is, really. It's just the roof, a place to store things.
I think it depends on the buildings too, because of course a lot of buildings don't have those gable roofs; they have flat roofs. So if you have flat roofs, you can't.
There's
You
no
don't have an
room.
attic. Yeah, you don't have an attic.
Absolutely.
Oh, Ava says she lives on the top floor, not in the penthouse. So she's told us. I'm sure it's very nice, though, even if it's not a penthouse.
When I lived in the UK, we had a house and it had a porch. There were two doors that you went into, two front doors. So you opened the first door and there was a glass porch, quite small. And then you opened a second door to go inside of the house. So the porch in the UK is often a very, very small space separating two doors, two entrance doors. However, in the US, and correct me if you think this is not accurate, Lynn, it's generally like a wooden platform where you usually have a rocking chair and maybe there's a place to lean on and have a coffee or smoke a cigarette.
In Britain, we would call that a veranda.
Yes.
Yeah.
A veranda.
But in actual fact, we don't have them in Britain. No, we don't have verandas. It's very Spanish. I think it's because the word must come from Spanish, no? Veranda, or it sounds Spanish to me. But it's like it's an area around the house which is covered with maybe the roof or something, so it's protected from the rain. But it surrounds the entire house or part of the house. But a porch is just for the door. Now, are you going to tell everybody, Craig, or do you know why in Britain we have porches?
Is it for the weather to protect? Exactly. Is it to protect the wind from the wind?
You always take your wet things off.
That's right. You leave your boots, your muddy boots.
You leave your shoes, you leave your wet coats, you leave your umbrella, you leave it all in the porch. And I think it's probably practical because in Britain, most houses have fitted carpet everywhere, don't they? And of course, it's not like in Spain. In Spain, we have like ceramic floors or wooden floors. But in Britain, we tend to have carpets everywhere. And of course, when it rains, and it rains a lot, of course, in England, then if you walk straight into the house with your wet things and your muddy boots, you're going to make a mess on the carpet. So I know that in Sunderland, which is where I was from, everybody used to have porches, and it was actually to protect the carpets in the house.
And I've just checked in the dictionary, and I was correct. They give two definitions for a porch, and in Spanish, porche. One is a raised outside platform, which will be like you said, Lynn, the veranda, probably more associated with American English, and a covered entryway, which is what you were describing in the UK to leave your umbrella and your muddy boots.
In the porch. Okay, interesting.
Bungalow. which you kind of say in Spanish with a slightly different pronunciation, bungalow, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. A bungalow in English is a house, a place where you live on one level. So a bungalow does not have an upstairs part. There are no stairs going up to bedrooms. It's just on one level. That's a bungalow.
And there's no cellar. There's no cellar either.
And there's no cellar underneath the house.
It's completely on one level.
Hi, Sergio. Sergio says he lives in an apartment, I think you mean, Sergio, an apartment on the second floor. Well done with that preposition. In Buenos Aires, in the city of Buenos Aires. Nice to meet you too.
Okay. Next one.
We've got veranda in there, Lynn.
Oh, great. Well, we've already done that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we've got a lot of words here. Garden. I'm sure everybody knows what the garden is. The garden where the flowers are and the grass and the lawn.
Of course, we have front gardens and back gardens in the UK. Front garden and back garden.
And we have a terrace. And a terrace is usually an area that is paved. So it hasn't got grass on it or soil or earth, but it has maybe ceramic tiles on it, or it might be wooden. It could be, I suppose, it could be a kind of, but it's an area where you can sit, and maybe like an extra seating area. Usually terraces are connected in some way with the living room doors, aren't they? The windows that you open out from your living room, and then you can go and sit on the terrace and maybe enjoy something to eat or enjoy something to drink. Yeah, that would be the terrace. And terrace. And then balcony is, of course, if you are in an apartment block, and then of course you haven't got a terrace to go out onto, so you haven't got a garden, for example, but you have this structure that's added on the side of the building, so you can walk out of your living room and you have a small area where you can overlook the rest of the street, and you can sit out there too. Veranda, we've talked about. It's the area that's usually around a house, right? Not on a block of flats. In American English, they don't say garden. My friend in America always talks about her yard.
Yes, her backyard.
That?
Yeah, yeah.
Her backyard, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But the backyard in English is something different. Did you have any backyards in houses where you lived in England, Craig? You lived in the south of England, didn't you?
I lived in the suburb. I grew up in the suburbs of London, and we didn't really have backyards. We had back gardens.
Yeah, back
so
garden.
It sounds like something with no flowers, a bit depressing, maybe with no grass, and just, as you said, paved, just concrete.
Paved. And usually backyards are from it's quite an old type of housing which exists in England, and they are called terraced houses. So you've got the word terrace there, but it's a different meaning of terraced with a D on the end.
Yeah, we've got it here, terraced.
Terraced houses is a row of houses. Maybe there might be 20, and they are all joined together. So their walls are all connected. They're all connected. They have possibly a front garden, or a very small garden at the front with a gate, and everybody had their own front door. So you go in through your own gate, you might have a little garden, and you have a porch, and then you go into the house. But at the back of the house was brick walls separating you from your neighbor that are quite high. And the area was always paved, as you said, Craig. There was no garden. And in that area, people used to do things like dry their clothes, and it was all hidden from view. So you didn't see your neighbor's clothes being dried, but you had a very private area with very high walls, but it was just for you. And that kind of housing still exists a lot in the older industrial cities of Britain. It used to exist in London, but a lot of that housing has been removed now in order to build blocks of flats. But in the Midlands, the north of England, in Scotland, you can still, and in Wales too, you'll still see a lot of that old housing, which is actually very nice. It's very nice housing. Sometimes the rooms are very big and have very high ceilings, and they're very nice, but they often have backyards, and that's British English backyard.
Rainer is in the chat room from Germany, and he says, Rheinhauser. Is that terraced? I don't know. Do you know that word?
Yes, I do.
Rheinhauser.
So Reihenhauser in German is terraced houses. And I think Rainer has also said, is a porch close to the floor in Germany? But not really, because the floor is inside the house. And this porch is a little construction which is added to the front door.
And it usually has a plant, doesn't it? It has a plant, so that as you go into the house, there's a green plant there in the porch.
And if you're unlucky, there might be a dog barking at you to warn you not to go in.
There was in our house. Now, we lived in a house. It wasn't terraced. Our house wasn't joined on both sides, but it was joined on one side. So if you can imagine the roof like this, and then cut down the middle and we lived on the left and our neighbors lived on the right, that's called semi-detached because it's detached on one side. And of course, if a house is detached, then it's completely by itself. It's not joined to anything. It's detached. It's on its own. So those three types of houses exist in the UK: detached, terraced, completely joined, or semi-detached, which is attached on one side. So where do you live? We would like you to come in soon, or now if you like, and speak about where you live, describe your house, and practice some of this vocabulary. I'm posting a link in the chat room. So if you follow that link, you're welcome to come in and practice your English and speak to us and tell us about your house. Brazil, Luza says, could you talk about corridor and hall? That's a good question. Thank you, Luza. Do you want to do that, Lynn, or shall I?
I can do that one if you like. Okay, so that's, I think I would say a hall is something that we actually have in our houses. The hall is, sometimes it's called a passageway in British English too. In the passage, we used to call it the passage in the north of England. And a hall is basically an area of the house where you have all the doors leading off to different rooms. So you often have a hall. If you have a house that's on 2 stories, you would have a little hall downstairs in front of the front door, and maybe leading off the hall there you would go into the living room and maybe into the kitchen, and then you'll have a staircase, and on the next floor you would also have a hall or an area from which the doors lead off to other areas of the house. Now a hall could be long and rectangular, or a hall could be square, or a hall could be circular. But when we talk about a corridor, we have a very fixed image, or I do. Would you agree, Craig? Of a very long rectangular. It's a vision of a long rectangular area. And quite frankly, I would tend to use the word corridor for buildings of like the town hall,
a hospital,
or a school, or a hospital, where you have a very, very long rectangular area, and then it leads off to offices, or it leads off to classrooms, or it leads off to hospital rooms. Yeah. Would you say that?
Absolutely. I'll add one more thing to what Lynn said, is that apart from that description that Lynn said about a domestic hall in your house leading to the kitchen or the lounge or the bedroom, you can also have collocations with hall, because you can play basketball in a sports hall, or you can go to a concert in a concert hall. So it does have a bigger, you can have really big halls, and it tends to go with collocation with something. So concert hall and sports hall are 2 examples.
Yeah. Okay, hope that helps.
Okay. If you have any more questions, you know what to do. Put them in the chat room. We'll try to get to them soon.
Ramona has one and says, how would you say mirador? It's a covered balcony, but with its own entity.
Its own entity.
I think it means it's on its own.
When I see mirador, I think of viewpoint, but that's more outside, when there's like a valley and you're up high and it's outside. I wouldn't use viewpoint for a house.
I think that might be, Craig. You know, in Valencia, there are some very, very old, beautiful houses on Calle La Paz. And they almost have a room as the outside of the building. They're often on the corners. Do you know what I mean? They're on the corners of these beautiful old state buildings, and they have this glass that goes around them.
Yeah.
From the floor to the ceiling, and behind them you can see that the house, it's not really a balcony as such, because you can't look out, but it's all glass covered in, and people use it as an extra kind of room. Maybe that's what Ramona is describing.
According to the dictionary, it says, as I said before, a lookout, a viewpoint, a vantage point. But there's another definition, which is what you're describing, Lynn.
Which we have, don't we? Which is sunroom.
When They
Or a
say bay window or enclosed balcony also. So I think that's the meaning that
a bay
she means.
window is a beautifully big window with glass all the way up, where it's kind of quite pleasant to sit in. And maybe it's actually separated by doors to the rest of your house. But it's not like an open balcony. It's not something that you can hang over.
No.
You can't stand on the end and say, Romeo, Romeo.
Wherefore out there, Romeo?
you can't do Shakespearean love stories.
No, it doesn't go well. And a corridor would not be used for a house. A corridor would be, as we said, in a hospital or a school, perhaps. We would say hall, Hall, in a house, definitely. Okay, where were we? I'm lost now with the vocabulary. Where were we?
Now we're talking about rooms in the house now, I think.
Rooms in the house. Why don't you write in the chat room all the rooms you can think of in a house, all the different types of rooms, and see if you can name.
We'll see if we have any that you don't know.
So what rooms can you think of in the house? Write them in the chat room as quickly as possible. What rooms are there in a house? We said some before, if you were listening carefully.
In the meantime, Ligia Ale is saying, how do you say terraza? This is on the last floor of a building. The terraza is a Spanish word. That's quite right. That's like the big, I think we say terrace on the top of the building too. I would say terrace.
Yeah, sun terrace, I would say. A sun terrace.
Sun terrace. Yeah. Sun terrace.
Remember, you're welcome to jump in and join us in the conversation if you would like to.
Come on, you know where are we sitting? Where are Craig and I sitting at the moment? We're in separate houses. Here we are. Felipe. Good, Felipe. Kitchen. Living room. Dinner room.
Dining room. Dining room, Felipe.
Dining room. That's
bathroom.
Bathroom. That's good.
Any more?
Any more? Sergio's asking, how do you say apart hotel? And I think we just say self-catering. Do we say apartment hotel? Apartment hotel, I think they say. That's a hotel where you have like self-contained units. In America, they would call it a motel, I think, wouldn't they?
Yeah, motel probably, but that's with your car though. Tony says dining room, kitchen, and bedroom. Very good. Bedroom. Excellent.
But where is Craig and where am I? I'm not in my bedroom.
We're not in the bathroom.
No, we're not in the bathroom. Where are we? Toilet? No, I'm not in the toilet either.
not yet.
I'm sure you didn't mean that. It was just there was a delay on the chat. Living room? No, this is not my living room. Maybe
okay. Let's show them.
There, look there. I've got books. You've got.
You're in the library. You're in the study.
Study nearly, Felipe. Just without the room, in the study. That's it.
So living room is usually where the sofa and the television is, and where you relax and read. Dining room, where you eat, where you dine. The verb to dine is to eat. Master bedroom, the very big bedroom. The main bedroom in the house. An ensuite bedroom has the toilet and sink and shower connected to the bedroom. So it's usually separated by a door. You walk in to the bathroom. Pantry. I have never had a pantry. It's where you keep the food, isn't it?
It is. It's a fantastic thing if you have a pantry. I've always wanted a pantry, but I haven't got one.
So it's is it connected to the kitchen?
It's usually connected to the kitchen, and it's a cold storage room. It's a room that's quite cold, so it hasn't got a window, doesn't have a heater, and you can actually store food in there, a pantry. It's like a walk-in wardrobe for the kitchen. There you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a walk-in wardrobe?
No.
Me neither.
No, I haven't. No. Now, several people are trying to guess where we are. They think, Craig, you're in the living room. I'll leave you to to answer that. But I'm actually in a study. I'm in my study. Or somebody also said the office. Lydia said the office, and that's right. You can call this room where you work. This is the room where I work. I work from home. And this room where I work is my study or my office. And where are you, Craig?
I'm not going to tell you yet, because we're going to speak about our houses later, and then when we've introduced some vocabulary, and then encourage you to come in with us and join us and speak about your houses and where you live. So I will tell you in about 5 or 10 minutes where I am and where I live. But let's continue with a few more words before we discuss some questions. Now, most people in Spain, if you live in a flat or an apartment, you live in the city, or at least in a big town. But there are other places where you could live. You could live outside the city centre, in the suburbs, las afueras, or in the country, or in the countryside, or in the centre of town, in the centre of the city. And in American English, you would say downtown. Downtown in American English is the city centre, or in a particular neighborhood. So you would name the neighborhood where you live. A neighborhood in Spanish is barrio. What about these words, Lynn?
All right. So often when you describe where you live, you usually describe what the advantages are. And sometimes people want to know, if you're looking for a place to live, what are the amenities like, the local amenities? And the word amenities means, what advantages are there to living where you live? So examples of amenities are things that make your life easier. So, for example, if you have shops that are nearby shops, right? That's a good amenity. If you have schools nearby, if you have children, of course, that's great if they can walk to school. You don't have to take them by car. Medical practices, doctors' practices, clinics, okay? Those kind of things are amenities. Parks and playgrounds, especially if you have, parks for everybody, because if you've got parks, you can do sports, you can do exercise, you can go for walks, you can walk your dog. And if you have playgrounds nearby, of course, your kids can play on the playground. Open spaces, all right? So all of those things are kind of like your local amenities. If you're lucky enough to live in an area that has a lot of local amenities, then you're living in a nice place, usually, I think. Is that all right,
Absolutely.
Craig? Have we got anything to add?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay. Somebody's asking what the difference is between a flat and an apartment.
Yeah, I just answered that in the chat. We said that
Great.
before. Flat, British English. Apartment, American English.
Thank you. Sorry, Craig. Yeah, great.
So you could live in a place where there are no trains, no buses, and it's really difficult to get into the center of the city. Then you are not well connected. We don't say well communicated. That's a mistranslation from Spanish. You say bien comunicado, it's well connected in English. So if you have good public transport from your house to the center of the city or to where you work, then you live in a well connected place. And obviously, easy parking. You need a place to park your car, which is a problem in some neighborhoods here in Valencia.
Okay. Yabir would like to join us, I think, Craig. I don't know if you can see that. He's asking to join us. Yabir.
Okay, yeah, but I'll put the link again in the chat room. This is the link you need for your browser. If you just follow this link, it works well with Google Chrome. Just click that and should see you here, and I'll be able to bring you into the stream with us so that you'll be live with Lynne and Craig.
All right. In the meantime, Luther and a couple of other people are asking, is amenities the same as facilities, Craig?
Facility, that's a good question. Amenities will be the services in your local area that make it a pleasant place to live, as you've said. And facilities, wouldn't that be more like the installations inside the building? Like if you have a washing machine room or central heating,
Yeah,
things like
I think
that.
so too. I think so too. So the facilities are more like installations, and the amenities are services. I think more. I think that's a good definition there.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
could live in a noisy area and you can have noisy neighbors, of course. You can live in a busy area. If you live near a market, it's probably very busy. Or you could live in a quiet, peaceful neighborhood with not much noise. And that's true if you live outside the city in the countryside, for example. You can have a fast pace of life where, for example, if you live in Manhattan in New York, that's a very fast pace of life. But if you live in a village in Spain, somewhere very remote, then things go a lot more slowly. So you have a slow pace of life, especially if you live in the country. So those are a few words for you. Now we'd like to ask you a question. We'll help you speaking about our places where we live, and then we'd like you to jump in using that link and tell us about where you live. So describe where you live and join us on Facebook Live. Lynn, do you want to start with a description of your
My
house and your area, your neighborhood? Do you have
Okay.
a
Well,
fast pace of life where you are?
Yabia says, "Can you share the link again, please, Craig?"
Yeah, sure.
The
Right
last
away.
one was a YouTube link, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Okay. So, So I live in, that Craig and I both living in Valencia at the moment in Spain. And I actually don't live in the center of Valencia. I live in the suburbs. It's not very far from Valencia. Valencia is not a very big city. So I only live about 4 kilometers from the center. And the place where I live, it's quite a new neighborhood. And it's very well connected with public transport. So I can catch a tram, I can catch metro to go anywhere I want to in Valencia. So I really like that because it's well connected with the city. But the advantage of living in the suburbs is that the pace of life is a little bit slower. There's not so much traffic. It's a quieter place. It's definitely a greener place. I've got Valencia is quite a green city. So even in the center of the city, there's lots of nice open spaces and parks and parks and playgrounds. But where I live, I do have actually much a greater variety, so that you can actually go for long walks and you don't necessarily see buildings and cars and things like that. But so I live in the suburbs, but I am really well connected with the city. So I kind of have the best of both worlds, I think.
And you're happy where you are?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Good.
And I live in a flat. But it's nice. We've got a lot of space, and I'm very comfortable here. I've lived here a long time now. I do miss a little bit living in a house, because as an English girl growing up in a house, I used to live in a semi-detached house, and then we lived in a bungalow with gardens, of course. So, but I've lived abroad for many, many years now. So I've lived in France, I've lived in Germany. And as soon as I left England, I had to become accustomed to living in blocks of flats. And I actually quite like it, because flats are easy to maintain. You don't have a lot of work doing the garden, and if the roof has a problem, all the building, it will get repaired by somebody else. So, living in apartments and in flats, they have advantages, and I'm quite a sociable person. So I do quite like living around lots of people, as long as they're not too noisy. But
Yeah, that's why I don't like living in a flat. I don't like our noisy neighbors. Marina lives in a flat. She lives in the center of Roquetes del Mar Maria in the south of Spain, but she's originally from the countryside of Buenos Aires. So that's quite a big change, I think, moving from Buenos Aires to Almeria. Yaba's trying to come in to speak to us. Can you hear us, Yaba?
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me?
Hi, Yaba.
Yeah, perfectly. Thanks for coming in. How you doing?
That's amazing. I'm really nervous.
It's only us. You know us.
This is a live video, and that's why I'm a bit nervous, but I'll try to do my best.
Okay. Tell us where you live and something about where your house and what it's like.
Okay, well, I live in Morelia, Michoacán, here in Mexico. I don't know if you know Morelia. This is the city of the gazpacho, which is a snack made of fruit with scoops of, for example, pineapple, mango, jicama, watermelon, and they mix it with lemon, salt, salsa Valentina, and they add cheese and chili.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That sounds
I've never
weird.
had that.
Yeah, but this is delicious. If you come to Mexico, you should try this one. This is delicious. And I don't know if you have any question.
Yeah, is your city like really busy? I mean, do you live in a flat, in a house? What floor do you live on? Would you like to change anything about where you live?
Oh, I live in I don't know how to say exactly fraccionamiento. I don't know if this is like a housing subdivision. I'm not sure.
Okay.
This is a place. This is well, I live in a house which is semi-detached. Outside every house we have like a small garden and a yard, a backyard. This is a small place here in the city. But I don't know how to say fraccionamiento. I'm not sure if you use it in Spain.
Is it kind of like a group of houses?
Yeah, exactly. This is a group of houses.
Housing estate. Could we say that, Craig?
Yeah, probably a housing estate. So it's in the suburbs, right, Yabud?
Yeah, exactly.
In the suburbs. It sounds very nice. It sounds very green. Lots of trees and maybe some countryside and plants around.
Yeah, outside every house we have some trees. A small piece, I would say, like a small cup of grass with some plants, and that's it. And then we have like a space for the car, and that's it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And my house has 2 floors.
Yes.
Yeah. And I live in the first floor. Well, here in America, we say the first floor compared with the Britain English that you said the ground floor.
Yeah, because you have the influence of American English, probably.
Yeah, because the English we use here is like American English.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so right now I'm in my room, and we have 3 rooms here and 1 complete bathroom. Yeah. Do you say complete bathroom as well?
Is it connected to your bedroom?
No. A complete bathroom. Sorry.
So it's a separate bathroom.
But I think what you mean with a complete bathroom is it has a toilet in it, a shower.
Yeah, exactly.
So the toilet isn't separate, but we don't actually have a word in English to describe that, because traditionally in England our bathrooms were all like that. And I think it's only been in, I don't know, the last 30, 40 years that people actually are separating the toilets off. You know, they separate room for the toilet.
If
it's just say bathroom.
If it's only the toilet, but you just say toilet. But if it's a toilet and shower or bath or sink, then call it a bathroom. A bathroom can be a toilet and shower. We just say bathroom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I live next to my sister's room. I'm next to the kitchen as well because my house is small. But I love the place where I live because, as you said, it's really green.
Yeah.
And it's really quiet.
What can you see from your window?
Oh, I can see the backyard.
The what?
The backyard.
The backyard.
Yeah. My mother's room is the best one because she has the window next to the garden.
We would say, Yabia, she has the window looking out to the garden.
Okay.
Yeah, she has the window looking out to the garden, so she's lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
She's your mom, so she deserves it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm in the last place.
But it's really, really good to talk to you. Thanks so much for coming in and joining us.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
That's okay. Come in next week as well. We'll be on next week. So do the same thing next week. It's great to hear from you.
Okay, thank you.
And you did great. You sounded great in English. Fantastic.
Yes, excellent, excellent. We've got some questions that people have been writing. How do you say manzana in English? Well, you could say apple, but I don't think that's what you mean, Ramona, because manzana, when you're speaking about streets and houses, you'd say block. So you'd say like a block, especially in US English and American English, where there's more like a grid structure in cities, for example, in New York. So you'd say 2 blocks from here, or my apartment building is the 3rd block in the street. So manzana will be block.
Block. Block full of blocks of flats as well.
Exactly.
Because I think people are getting confused because they're thinking block of flat, but in actual fact, a block, a whole block, could be several blocks of flats in the block, in the manzana.
What about the part of the city that isn't the center of the city and isn't the suburbs? It's the city.
Yeah.
It's the city. If you think of London, for example, the city of London, the center of the city is really quite small. It's where the banks and the offices are and the businesses. But the city of London is quite big. And then you go out further and you get to the suburbs. So you've got the city center, then the city, then the suburbs. Do you agree with that, Lynn?
Yeah, I think so. And you can say I live on the edge of the city. That's possible too, possibly. Yeah. If you want to distinguish that you're not in the city center, you can say I live on the edge of the city. That's possible. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to come in and say hi and tell us about where you live? Marina says, can I say, for example, the balcony looks onto the beach? Not quite, Marina.
I think she wants to say, for example, the balcony looks right onto the beach.
Yeah. You could also say looks over the beach. You can look over look over the park or look over the beach. You could also say looks onto or looks over the beach.
Yeah.
So while we're waiting to see if anybody wants to come in before we say goodbye, I'll quickly tell you about my flat so you can hear the vocabulary again. So before you didn't guess where I was sitting, and the problem with my flat, it's not a problem. Well, one problem is it's really, really small. So there's just one room that's quite big and a bedroom and bathroom. And that's the flat. And the hall, of course, there's a hall that comes down into this area. So this area, which is quite big, is the living room, the dining room, and my office. So it's all together, which works really well for us because I don't have children. So there are no children running around. And it's quite a big space. And this is where I work, this is where I eat, and this is where I relax in the evening. And I live in a suburb of Valencia called Barbarossa, which is near the beach. So my flat actually does look onto the beach. There's a building in the way, so we don't have a nice sea view, but the flat does look onto the beach. And it's quite well connected. There are buses to take us into the city. It takes about 45 minutes. And the amenities are quite good. There are a couple of supermarkets. And of course, there's a beach to do exercise and walk along the promenade of the beach, next to the beach. And there's lots of shops. So it's a nice area. Quite like it.
It is. You live in a nice place. It's a nice place.
Except in August when all the tourists come, all the giddies.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Craig? Anybody else want to come in and try it?
We can wait 5 minutes to see if anybody wants to follow Yaber and come in and tell us about your where you live. All
right. Shall I tell them about the Padlet page? We're trying again.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes. Tell them about the Padlet page.
So, we are keep insisting to try to get you to do some practice and some homework when we leave our class. So this week we've created, can you put the link up into the chat room or maybe, can you do that, Craig?
I'll put it in the chat room and I'll also try and share my screen and show.
All right. So we've made a new Padlet and this one is a map of the world. And when you make a post here, you can actually say the place and it will automatically put your pin on the map of the world. Right. So if you want to do a little bit of practice of the vocabulary that we've done today, there you go. Right. And you can see already we've got a couple of posts. You see these red things here are posts. One of them you can see is in Spain, because I made that post, and I'm telling you, I've got a picture of Valencia if anybody's interested. And I'm telling you a little bit about why Craig and I think Valencia is nice. I think you agree with me, do you, Craig? I spoke
absolutely, 100%, Lynn. Yeah.
Why we like living in Valencia. And you'll also see a bit further down the map that I've got another post here, which is my dream destination. Where would you live if you had all the money in the world? And I've got it very clear where I would like to live. This is my dream destination, my dream house. So if you're interested in reading about where I would really like to live, you can see that it's in Africa, but you'll have to go into the webpage and then you can read all about it. And I've got a picture there, and I'm telling you all about where I would really like to live. So if any of you would like to practice, remember, you just open up that webpage, and all you have to do is click on the map, and you can put in the place, and you can decide to either make a text message, which is what I've done there, but you can also, if you click on the more button at the bottom, you can actually leave a voice recording, or you can even create a video recording of yourself telling us about where you live. And I would really like to know where you guys all live, and if you can put pictures in, it would be brilliant.
So would I, and I'd also like to know where Felipe lives. Can you hear us, Felipe?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Hello, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Where do you live?
Okay, well, I live in Chile. I'm from Chile. I used to live in an apartment, but I just moved out to my parents' house since the pandemic.
Right.
I'm working remotely, so there is no problem being here for now.
What's the difference between living in your parents' house out of the city to where you lived before in the apartment? Are there differences in what you can do?
Yes, exactly. I don't know how to say it in English, but the apartment I was living before, it's an apartment that it's only for one person. It's just you don't have any kind of division. It's like the kitchen, but not very. It's not separated by walls. It's like the living room is together with the bedroom. Of course, you have the division to the bathroom, but it's an area that includes all the different rooms.
In English, Felipe would say studio apartment.
Studio apartment, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a studio apartment. But now I'm living with my parents. It's like a regular apartment in Chile with all the bedroom, the divisions. And okay, what else I can say? Well, I have like I live in a suburb. It's like a place where we don't have industries or factories near. It's like it's close to the center, maybe 20 minutes to the center by taking or using the tube, the metro or bus. What else?
So it's quite well connected.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Nowadays, okay, I haven't used any kind of transportation because I'm staying at home. But yes, it's well connected. Yeah, indeed.
And are there lots of good amenities nearby where you live?
Yeah. You have like the big stores, the supermarkets. Okay, maybe 10 minutes from here, walking. But in this kind of places, because well, you have these little stores, these convenience stores, these stores. But okay, they are quite expensive in this area.
That's great. That's wonderful. What's the situation in Chile with the virus? Is it bad at the moment?
Okay, it was getting better, but now we are we are just having a special situation because we are going to vote about changing the constitution, some very important laws regarding our system. So okay, they are coming in October. So okay, it was getting better, but now they are kind of relaxing the rules or the lockdown. So okay, maybe it could get worse, but okay, who knows? It's kind of difficult.
Yeah, well, listen, Felipe, stay safe and be careful, and don't go outside too much.
Yes, exactly. I like running, so I'm just running during the morning. I wake up early, so maybe I'm able to run with not too much people outside. But okay, it's kind of hard because everyone wants to be outside right now.
Yeah, sure.
The lockdown has lasted too long in Chile, or at least in Santiago, the capital, the main city.
Yeah, it's lasted too long everywhere, I think. Anyway,
yes, exactly.
Let's hope things get better soon. Hey, thanks a lot for coming in, Felipe. It's really good to hear your voice and to meet you virtually online. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That's
okay,
fantastic. So it's so nice because people, the way we live all around the world, we've got similarities, but there are differences, aren't there, between the way we live in different countries. So it's really interesting for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lynne's told you about the Padlet board. I will also put something on there tomorrow or the next day, within the next 2 days. And I'm going to put a place that might surprise you where I actually lived. Oh. And the same as Lynne, I'm going to put a place which is my dream destination if I could go somewhere to live one day where I'd like to live. And remember, you can also record your voice if you don't want to write a text or put pictures. You can just record your voice and put a pin in the map and tell us about where you'd like to live.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. It's lovely to have you here. And we hope that you enjoyed the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Before we go, Lynne, do you want to tell them once more about your website?
All right. My website is called Putitlikethis.com. You can see it at the bottom in the streaming there, Putitlikethis.com. And if anybody's interested in I tend to specialize in helping people find their own voice in English. So if you have something specific that you want to do, like Craig mentioned earlier in the program, if you want to prepare for an exam, for example, or if you're a business person and you want to prepare for a special presentation, maybe you write in English and you need help to improve your writing because you're publishing things in English, academic articles, for example. Or maybe you're actually teachers, because I'm doing a lot of work now with teachers who are having to teach in English through the medium of English, but they're actually not English speakers themselves. They're not native speakers. So if you have specific projects, I'm the person to contact. So you can contact me through Putitlikethis.com. Okay.
And if you joined us through Facebook, the Facebook Mansion Inglés page, you probably know that on Mansion Inglés, we have free courses and lots of material to help you with your English. And every week we publish a podcast over at inglespodcast.com that also helps you with your English. So check it out. It's free. Why not? And we'll be back again. I'll be back with Lynne in 2 weeks' time. Next week, hopefully, Monica will be here with a different subject and some more vocabulary. So join us again next week. And thanks for being here this week.
Yeah, thank you. And stay safe and enjoy your homes. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy my living room now.
Stay safe and wear your masks.
Yeah. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.